Emily from Cast. Welcome to Story Time. Today our story is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Shall we begin? All together please. Once upon a time, there was a king and a queen. They had a beautiful baby girl. The king and the queen called her Snow White. The queen died soon after Snow White was born. The king was very sad and lonely. But 1 year later, the king married again. The new queen was very beautiful. She liked to look at herself in the mirror. The queen had a special magic mirror. Every day she looked into the magic mirror and said, "Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And the mirror would answer, "You are the fairest of them all." One day the queen looked into the mirror again. "Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And the mirror said, "You were the fairest, shining bright, but now the fairest is Snow White." Say hello to Snow White. The queen was very angry. She called for a servant. "Servant! Servant!" "Yes, queen." "Take Snow White into the forest and kill her." "Yes, queen. Off I go to the forest. I will take Snow White with me." "Snow White, I don't want to kill you." "Don't leave me alone in the woods," said Snow White. "Okay, I'll leave you here, Snow White. Stay safe. Goodbye." The woodcutter went back to the palace. He had let Snow White go free. She was very scared in the forest and very alone. Snow White walked into the forest and came across a cottage. She knocked at the door. She knocked at the door again. There was nobody there. So she went inside. And inside she saw 7 chairs. Let's count the chairs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 chairs. And then she saw 7 beds. Let's count the beds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 chairs and 7 beds. Snow White was very tired. She had a big yawn. "Yawn with us." And she lay down in one of the beds and went to sleep. While Snow White was sleeping, 7 little dwarfs came along. They lived in the cottage. There was 7 dwarfs. Shall we count the dwarfs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One was called Doc. "My name is Doc." One was called Sleepy. "My name is Sleepy." One was called Bashful. "Oh, I'm Bashful." One was called Dopey. "Oh, I'm dopey. Another was called Grumpy. I'm grumpy. Ooh. Then there was Sneezy. Achoo! Oh, my name's Sneezy. I need a tissue and I need to wash my hands. Achoo! Sneezy went and washed his hands. And then, last of all, my favourite, there was Happy. I'm a happy dwarf. Snow White was fast asleep. All the 7 dwarfs found Snow White sleeping. She woke up. All the dwarfs were very kind to Snow White. They said, "You can stay with us, Snow White." She was very happy. The next day, the 7 dwarfs went into the hills to dig for gold. Snow White stayed at the cottage. She waved them goodbye. Bye, dwarfs! Hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to work they go. Snow White stayed at the cottage. The dwarfs had said, "Do not let anyone in." Meanwhile, back at the palace, the Queen looked into the mirror. Mirror, mirror, on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? The mirror spoke back. You were the fairest shining bright, but the fairest now is Snow White. The Queen was very, very cross. She was very cross at the servant. She decided to put some poison into an apple. She put some poison in the apple. She dressed up as an old lady and she went along to the cottage. Yes. She went to the cottage and she knocked on the door. She knocked again. Snow White opened the door for me. Hello there. Oh, hello. I wondered if you would like an apple. Oh, that looks delicious, said Snow White. Yes, please. Here's the lovely juicy apple. She took one bite of the apple and the poisonous apple made her fall down dead. Oh, very good. It worked. Hi-ho, it's back from work we go. When the 7 dwarfs came home, they could not wake Snow White. Oh, they were very, very sad. The dwarfs put Snow White into a glass box, and there she lay asleep. A prince came riding by. He saw a beautiful girl. Why, hello there. I'm a prince. What is happening here? The dwarf explained that Snow White had ate a poison apple and wouldn't wake up. Oh, she looks very beautiful. The prince kissed Snow White and she awoke. Will you marry me? Said the prince. Yes, said Snow White. Very, very good. Oh, the prince and Snow White were very happy. Meanwhile, in the castle, the Queen looked into her magic mirror again. Mirror, mirror she disappeared. Snow White and the Prince lived, joining with me, happily ever after. Hooray! Well done, big applause! Happily ever after. I hope you enjoyed Snow White, and I hope you enjoyed meeting the old witch, the Queen, and Snow White, and the Prince, and of course the 7 dwarfs. Now then, I have a challenge for you. I would like you to draw a picture of one of the 7 dwarfs. Now you can do any of the 7 dwarfs, your favourite. Draw a nice picture and colour it in. Think what clothes your dwarf wears and think what your dwarf's face is doing. Is it happy? Is it grumpy? Or if you want to make your very own dwarf up, that would be great too. So these are some pictures of some dwarfs. So here we have Bashful, a lovely dwarf with a lovely hat and clothes, and Bashful is saying, I don't want to go outside. And then on the other page we have Doubtful and Jumpy, which are some new dwarfs. Okay, and then they're saying, I don't want to go outside, it's raining. Okay, so can you do me one of the 7 dwarfs or your very own dwarf? And I would love to see those. Okay, time to go. Hands in the air. Big bye for now. Big bye from Snow White. And a big bye from the Prince and me. Goodbye.